Hello, Year 6. Welcome to our penultimate RE lesson of the week and of the topic, actually. It's gone very quickly. So we're looking today at how stories help support the teaching of Hinduism. So in most religions, there are religious stories that they use to teach children and to teach others about the beliefs and why they hold them. So I want you to be able to understand that Hindus tell stories to pass on key teachings of the religion. I want you to know that many religious stories have a moral or a lesson behind them. And I want you to be able to summarize the events of a key religious story that we've picked and explain the lesson behind it. So I want you to understand the teachings that come with it. So, as with many religions, Hinduism uses stories to pass on important teachings. The stories are called parables, or referred to as parables, and they have a moral or lesson that is learned with them. Okay? So, can you think of any stories, religious or not, that have a moral that come with them? Like the story, I'll give you an example, the tortoise and the hare. It's a really common story that actually has that moral. You know, the hare rushes off and is miles ahead of the tortoise and then gets a bit arrogant, a bit cocky and decides, well, do you know what? I'm just going to have a snooze, I'm going to have a lie down. I've got this tortoise beaten. And whilst it's asleep, the tortoise overtakes and wins the race. And it's that story of, you know, slow but steady wins the race, that little saying that's come with it. And also that idea that just because you're not the quickest doesn't mean you can't do the best. And it's that thing of the tortoise's approach was the most successful. So today we're going to read the parable of the man in the well. And it is printed, it's on your sheet that you have at home. And it's one of the parables from the Mahabharata. It's a story told by the wise Vidura to King Dhritarashtra. And as we read, I want you to be considering what you think the moral to this story might be. So I'm going to go to that now. So here's your sheet that you'll have at home. If you want to get the story yourself, pause and get the story and you can have a read with me. So, the wise and trusted advisor, Vidura, tells a story. A man is on a journey and comes to a dense forest. The forest is full of carnivorous beasts, ravenous lions, tigers, and elephants, more terrible even than death. The man is deeply disturbed and his hair stands on end. In terror, he runs about looking for shelter, trying to escape from the beasts. As he runs, he realizes that the forest is wrapped up in a huge net, and the net is embraced in the arms of a monstrous woman. There is no escape. Suddenly, the floor of the forest gives way, and he plunges through some creepers into a concealed well. His feet become tangled up in the creepers, and he's suspended upside down like an enormous fruit. It's just like a piece of fruit hanging from a tree. Looking down, he sees that a powerful snake is waiting at the bottom of the well. Looking upwards, he sees that a great elephant is slowly circling the edge of the well, an elephant with 6 blackened mouths and 12 feet. As he looks, he notices some fearsome bees coming from a tree overhanging the well. In the midst of the tree, he sees a stream of honey flowing down towards him. He reaches out to drink it, his thirst for its sweetness overwhelming his fears. With each mouthful, he is left unsatisfied and needs more. Out of the corner of his eye, he notices some black and white mice nibbling on the creepers. Despite the great and terrible dangers he is in, the man does not get tired of living or give up hope of life. And there he stays, thrown into the ocean of existence. So what an interesting story. Now the moral behind it is quite difficult to see. I don't think it's the one that you might know and go, oh, straight away I know what the moral is to that story. Now the other thing to say is there isn't just one moral that I'm going to tell you and you should all just go, oh yeah, that's the moral. With stories, it's really important for you to take from them what you can and what you want to. So what you think that moral is, what does it mean to you? Now, there is one line in there that I'm going to read again, and I think for me, this is where I take my moral from. It doesn't mean that you have to, and it doesn't mean you have to share the same sentiment or the same idea, but this is where I see the moral is coming from. So despite the great and terrible dangers he is in, the man does not get tired of living or give up hope of life. And I think that idea does link for me to the idea of karma and the idea of their belief that the Hindu people have, the people who follow the Hindu religion. that they are within that life circle and that life cycle, and the way they behave, and the value they have on life, the value they give to life, how important it is. So that's the story for you. And you can see there's a lot of terrorism and a lot of negative energies around him, but at no point does he give up and go, life's not worth living. He believes and he values the life he has. And I think that's where I take my moral from. But what I want you to do today is, on the other side of your sheet, you've got 8 boxes. Well, you've got 16 boxes, 8 numbered. In each of these boxes, I'd like to draw a picture of a particular scene in that story to retell sort of the 8 key steps in the story. And underneath, I just want you to write a sentence or a little phrase that just explains what the picture shows. So think carefully about what has happened in the story and what does it mean to you. So pick 8 key steps that you think are really, really important. And one thing I would suggest, particularly linked to that sentence I've just read again, the idea he doesn't give up hope. Think about the facial expression you might give your man or character in this, the man in the well. Because it's different to that idea that if he had enough, if the terrors had been awful, how his face would look. Actually, he doesn't feel like that. Although these terrors are awful, he doesn't have that lack of hope or that lack for love of life. So think carefully about how you produce your work. All right. I look forward to seeing what you manage to create.